broadcast landscape was as dry and desolate as an old bone graveyard. For miles in every direction, earnest ears would perk toward the merest rustling of a tumbleweed, hoping for the gunslinger who'd spit out a bit of intellect and feed their bored, tired souls. Just when they were about to pull in the horns, there came a distinct thump of big boots on cracked dirt, a sound better even than a moonshine saloon on nickel night. It was the voice of a man possessed, Dennis Miller.
Hey, folks, welcome back to the Jabber Chamber. Dennis Miller here. We're joined now by a brilliant cat, and a convivial one, and one who had a course correction in life that I always find fascinating. I like guys who have seen things both ways. I like the lucidity of that, and I like supple belief systems. If something changes in your life and you don't adjust to meet it, that's stridency to me, and I don't think stridency in any way, shape, or form. This is David Horowitz. He does some great work on our college campuses, and he has a new book out, and I'll be honest with you, I'm tabula rasa on this one. I don't know much about it. It's called A Point in Time, love the title, The Search for Redemption in This Life and Next. And this is David Horowitz.
Hey, Dennis.
Give me the core of the book.
A point in time is us. We're hardly even that in the eye of eternity. If you look at, you look back 3 generations, you don't know anything about anybody who existed. Maybe if you're a genealogy fanatic, you know a few things. So, if we're realistic about ourselves, we're going to disappear, and everything that we do will be erased. So human beings, however, have a problem with living a meaningless life. That is, you don't like to think that everything that you ever did, all the effort, you don't get any marks for it, good or bad. So there's really 2 options that people have, and I refer to this as a redemption. One is that there is a God, and that after we're dead, it's all going to be made clear to us. We'll understand why bad guys succeeded and like Fidel Castro lived long lives,
yes,
and why good people often die young and often die horrible deaths, and the innocent are. And that's a redemption in the next life. And we understand, another thing that we understand is that the problem with this world is us. If you're on the left, you think social institutions, you change society, and then people will change. But, of course, people are the problem. And unless you're going to reprogram people, you can't make things.
Well, tie this theory though into the title. You're saying
the other option, if you don't believe in it, it's going to be sorted out after we're dead, is to make this life meaningful. And you do that by creating a new world where there's social justice, where there's no poverty, no war, no racism, no sexism, no homophobia, no Islamophobia, whatever. And that's what drives people on the left, and that's where all the atrocities.
I see so many, Dave, now that you isolate this theory, I concur in that I see so many people who want to do good for the collective have not done the inner work. I see that I want to burnish my interior before I go out. I think
you're a conservative right there, I can tell you. I mean, people who have incredibly deficient personal lives project their own isolation and loneliness and onto a collective. And we're going to, it's the kumbaya syndrome. Well, make the whole world is going to be chummy. But if you look at these people, they don't have any chums. It is a big psychological. I don't say that everybody on the left is like this, but an awful lot.
No, but there's a surprising amount there. And I'll tell you what, the way it exhibited itself most recently, when they do relativism between us and the jihadists, I just shake my head and think, and I want to ask your theory on this, do they really sit down and see that, or is their well so poisoned that they can't even, or else when they throw the Hitler thing out, I want to say, wait a second, you can't call somebody Hitler-like if they haven't systematically eliminated 6 million of their fellow human beings. And when you do that, it's dangerous because you dilute what Hitler actually was. But there's so much anger on the American left right now. Am I really...
Well, it's all driven by anger. It's resentment, envy, and resentment and anger, because these are people who can't come to the terms with the fact that life is, screwed up. It's a hard thing to deal with. They don't deal with reality well. They deal with the fantasy of the redeemed future. That's where they live. They cannot abide. They can't think that maybe a billion Muslims or half a billion Muslims hate us, and if we're Jews, just want to kill us.
Yeah, I mean, they can't get that together.
Their Allah has said, kill the Jews, in so many words. Yes, you have to ask yourself, how do all these people who are for social justice and equality and, embracing all minorities, how do they support Hamas, which is a Nazi organization that just says in so many words, we want to exterminate the Jews? It's denial.
Yeah.
They get meaning in their own lives out of this future in which everything is redeemed.
Yeah, I don't view it as a craziness. People are too easy on them when they say they're crazy. I view it as an obstinacy, a non-curious obstinacy, which I think infects the left at some point. I can't tell you how many people I've said, well, how can you work with O'Reilly? I go, you ever watch the show? They go, no, I wouldn't watch the show.
Exactly.
And I go, case closed. I don't know what to tell you. We're talking to David Horowitz. The book is A Point in Time, The Search for Redemption in This Life and the Next. As I talk to you, Dave, I always find you such a lucid and a brilliant thinker. I cannot imagine. Can you look back and tell me, was it like you were a Mooney, or how did you work with the Panthers? I'm amazed
Well,
at that.
because I was delusional. I saw it's ideas that matter. To leftists, it's the idea that matters. If Nazis say they're for liberation, that does it. So, I mean, the Panthers, what? Blacks are oppressed. The Panthers are their militant leaders. The left still believes this, even though they were gangsters and killed people. And I was shattered personally. I was depressed for 7 years.
Yeah, you must have been.
After they killed this woman, because I took them at their words, and
Well, the book, folks, the book A Point in Time is this one, but you must go back as a sort of a palette setter. David's book, Left Illusions, series of essays, absolutely brilliant. It'll tell you about his former life, his conversion, the heartbreaking event that leads him to that. And like I said, I always admire bravery in one's mind. And if you are, that's one of the things that is bugging me about this guy, Dave, Barack Obama. I don't have an axe to grind. I like the way he is with his wife and kids. He seems like a decent human being. But just the fact that 1,000 days in, he's not willing to concede that this system's not working and change. That lack of suppleness in his belief system really drives me crazy. I think
true believing Marxist and has been all his life. Stanley Kurtz, I don't know if you've had him on, but he wrote a really good book called Radical in Chief, in which he plots the whole career of Barack Obama. It's all within the left that I came out of. I know all these people that made him, and he hasn't changed. Then why should he? Since you have Newsweek, we're all socialists now.
Yeah.
They've learned nothing. What the left learned from the 60s and from all the disasters of communism was, don't tell people your agendas.
Right.
Seriously, that's what that whole book, Alinsky's book, Rules for Radicals, which they are their Bible. That's all that book is about. It is conceal your ends and pretend to people that you're a liberal, and of course conservatives are so collusive in this and calling people who are bigoted liberals. Liberals are not liberal. We're liberal.
Well, I want to pick Dave's brain after the break about where Israel sits in all this right now. A Point in Time is the book, The Search for Redemption in This Life and Next. You talk about a cat on a hot tin roof. If I'm Netanyahu, I'm waking up every morning and know that when it's go time, I got to go it alone because this guy's not coming over the top if a bar fight breaks out. We'll pick Horowitz's brain about that. A Point in Time, the book. The brilliant David Horowitz for another segment right after this on The Dennis Miller Show.
The Dennis Miller Show.
15 seconds. Guidance internal. 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8. Ignition sequence start. Engines armed. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All engines running. Launch finished. Liftoff. We have liftoff at 9:34 a.m.
The Dennis Miller Show. 866-509-7268.
Hey folks, welcome back to the Dennis Miller Show, and we are joined for another segment by the brilliant David Horowitz. He has a new book out, A Point in Time, The Search for Redemption in This Life and Next. Dave, what's the Yiddish word for tenterhooks? Because I know...
I have no idea.
I know that, when they put Netanyahu back in, that was somebody over there saying, all right, we need a guy who we know what they're going to do, because they, honest to God, don't know if we're going to be there for him anymore, do they?
They don't. And,
or do they know we're not going to be?
Anti-Israel, anti-Jewish president in the history of the country, which is saying something.
Now, is that what flipped New York 9? I mean, the Jews have always been opening.
That's amazing. That was amazing. The guy he beat was, look, the guy, whatever his name is, Weprin, the Democrat, was an Orthodox
Turner. I think his name is Turner, the cat that beat.
That's the winner. The loser, Weprin.
Oh, I see.
The loser was this is a 30% Jewish district, 30%, and the Democrat was an Orthodox Jew, goes to synagogue every day. Was a state senator. His father was the Speaker of the Senate there. It's a total political family. And he's running against an Irish Catholic Republican.
Right.
And the Republican beats him by, it's a landslide.
Well, listen, when I hear about 30% Jews in that district, I think, well, how has it not been Republican since 1923? Because I'll be honest, well, maybe back then it was, there was a lot of Jock Whitneys and that frowning on. But in the interim, why hasn't it flipped a little? The Dems haven't been for Israel full-throatedly in a long time. Is the diaspora not care? A
very large proportion of Jews are deracinated.
Wait a second, what's that mean? What's that mean?
Uprooted. Mm-hmm. They don't have their roots. They're in denial. Jews do not like to recognize they have enemies. Even though they're paranoid about benign Christians like Jerry Falwell, late Jerry Falwell. You know what they say about Reform Judaism?
No, I don't.
It's the Democratic Party with holidays.
Well, that is about as spot on.
But it's just what this book, Point in Time. It's the redemption in this life. That's their religion.
Yeah.
Their religion is left-wing politics.
I'm browsing through the book, and it's such an existential mountain to mount, this a point in time, the search for redemption in this life and next. And yet I see you have isolated the book into 3 sections chronologically, and you have to point out to me why you've done it this way. October 2006, November 2008, and December 2010.
This is really a meditation on my getting old. You're a young man still, Dennis, but it's autobiographical. It's a story. It's a lot about my dogs. Mm-hmm. You like dogs?
Yeah, I do.
You will find, and it's a meditation on these issues, but out of my life. So the 3 years are 3 stages of my life.
Well, where are you at right now, Dave? Well, I know you fight the good fight, but it must take a chunk out of you. Where are you at? Are you positive, negative? Where are you at?
Oh, I've always kind of, I'm an optimist, probably a cockeyed optimist, but but you know, my mind tells me things are really, really bad. It's never been so bad for the Jews since the destruction of the Second Temple in 70 A.D. I don't think the Jews have been in such a bad state. I don't see any way out of war in the Middle East, and probably be a nuclear war if it comes.
Well, listen, everybody always, I know I'm as aghast as anybody about the science fiction quotient there, but at some point, the Jews, listen, out of all the people on the planet, the Jews have, there's very few people that can say, all right, we gave 6 million up at one point. Our current population of Israel is around 6 million. We're not doing it again, and we're going a day early rather than a day late.
Boy, do I wish that were the case. When I was 15, I did a paper on the Warsaw Ghetto. There were 600,000 Jews in the Warsaw Ghetto. And Jews had escaped from Auschwitz and came to tell them, and they wouldn't believe them. And the Jewish sort of liberals that were running the ghetto organized the Jews so it would be easier for the Germans to ship them off to the east because they thought they were going to work camps.
Mm-hmm.
At the very end, when there were 1,500 left, some Jews organized a resistance. I think they had 6 weapons. And they held off the Germans for longer than France did. They held them off for 6 weeks. They had to go house by house and kill them. And, if there had been a resistance, there would be... They could never have killed 6 million Jews. So I'm very concerned about the... I hope you're right. I hope the Jews fight.
I have to think. I cannot imagine another scenario because it's too horrific.
They don't have the space anymore. Here you have a globally organized second Holocaust supported by all the Arab states and all the Muslim states, for sure. With the Europeans very, very wobbly. And then we have a president who is sticking it to the Jews at this time.
Yeah, I don't understand why we haven't, as a Security Council member, not even jumped in already and say, hey, don't even take this vote. This isn't going to happen. We're not going to recognize. That must be so unsettling to the Jews that Palestine is.
Well, for those of us who recognize it, it is. Why are we in the UN? At all? Why are we financing this disgusting organization?
I agree with you, man. I would turn that into, that would be this old house, this old UN thing. I'd send Bob Vila in there and redo that and condo it out because I'm getting sick of fat Victor Buono guys in fezzes beating parking tickets on the Lower East Side. That's what it's turned into for me. We're talking to David Horowitz. The book is A Point in Time, The Search for Redemption in This Life and Next. It's a contemplative day, but I know he loves his old lady, and they got their animals over there, so you're a happy cat, right?
Yes.
All right, brother. Go have a nice lunch with the missus, and we'll talk down the road if the planet is still here.
Right, Dennis.
All right, Davey. Good to talk to you. A Point in Time: The Search for Redemption in This Life and Next. Have you ever heard anybody say, "I think of myself as an optimist" in a more hangdog manner?
I think he's it.
Huh? I felt like it was like Eddie Slovic walking down to the gallows.
I was going to say droopy dog, but I think yours is better.
Davey, he's lost too many heat towels off the nose cone because Dave's out there on the front of the movement, and he's going to these college campuses and seeing these nuts like Ward Churchill would sway over our kids, and he must go home at night and think, oh my God, we've gone past the tipping point. But what are you going to do, folks? You keep your head up. And where's Judy Garland? We got our Judy rave off on. Give me a little of that when we come back in on the Dennis Miller Show.
Forget your troubles. Come
I know.
On, get happy.
I know what you're saying.
You chase
Are they already? No.
Shout hallelujah. Come on, get happy.
I have to get that into my vein. I like Dave.
The sun is shining. Come on, get happy. The Lord is waiting to take your hand. Shout hallelujah. Come on, get happy. We're going to the promised.
That always gets me out of a funk. And The great Judy Garland. And listen, I love Horowitz. I think he's a brilliant man, but he just has that tone in his voice, right? It's a little hangdog, but he's fearless. I mean, Dave and Breitbart, the two most fearless guys on this side of it. They're both. You know why? Because, and too, they'll go to college campuses. I gave up on that completely, man. There's no more closed-minded place than a college campus right now, and you just don't want to go there and start chirping anything that isn't the party line. But you'll see Dave out there fighting it. Ann fights it. Ann has a big guy with her now, though, former Mossad, who keeps the pies out of her face. And Andrew, you always see him at the sawhorse. That's when you know a guy's taking it real seriously, when you see them standing at the sawhorse and the guy next to him has a megaphone and he's screaming in his ear.